world. They have had 4 championship races, all of which have been at the local circuit of Zhuzhou, and Han Li Chao took 2 race wins. Lau Kim Ho took 1, and Kan Che Wei also has been a race winner. But the entry this weekend is a great one. We've got 26 cars in total, and Kan Che Wei was unable to get a lap time in yesterday, so we need to keep an eye to the Ginetta G55. Another one that had problems yesterday was Brian Lai's Ginetta, and that car expired on the circuit and brought out a red flag. But the entry is a really great snapshot of what GT4 racing has become. You've got Mercedes, Ginetta, BMW, Porsche, Toyota, McLaren, KTM. There was a Lotus Enter, but it's not here as far as I can tell. And there is an Audi in the entry as well. Oh, and Aston Martin, one shouldn't forget. So what's that, 9 different brands? That ain't half bad, Alan.
Not bad, is it?
No.
Not bad. A great entry. And as you can see, all of a sudden, things become a little bit more Macau. Why? Because the sunshine has started to come out. The weather forecast was that from around about midday, we would enjoy more Macau-type weather. And the sunshine has come out about an hour before expected, which is really good news. Sunshine looks down on the paddock, the temperatures will start to rise, the circuit will start to dry out, and lots of people wave at the camera. Indeed so, and the nice thing is that hopefully the sunshine might get rid of some of the humidity, because it's been really, although we've had a lot of rain, it has been so humid as well these last couple of days. 90% I noticed on screen yesterday. Yeah. Well, it was pretty unpleasant outrunning at whatever time, 6:30 this morning. My bath is less humid than that. Yeah, quite. They're sitting in the assembly area, Lokar Chun, with one of the BMW M4s, Mercedes AMG representation for Chen Chunhua. And that's going to be a car to watch for sure. He was 3rd in the opening round of the championship, in fact, at Zhuzhou was Chen Chunhua. So one of the quick drivers to keep an eye to, as the cars will shortly be released out on track for 30 minutes of qualifying. And in true Macau fashion, it's not just drivers and mechanics now in the assembly area. Terence Say with the Team TRC Mercedes AMG. Number 72 there is Leung Keng Hei with the BMW M4. And further down the assembly area, you'll see further representation of all the different brands that we have within the entry. So the assembly area is starting to be cleared of mechanics, and very shortly engines will fire and we're going to be in business. A wet track declared, but the good news is it's going to dry pretty swiftly now. I reckon it will as well. The sunshine comes out, and it was drying as the previous session here for the Road Sport Challenge. It was drying and drying as the session went on. And we'll see what the times are going to be at the start relative to the end, when hopefully it will be a much drier circuit. Toyota and Porsche at the front of the Prix grid, which is lined up based on the order of the times set in yesterday's session. And in a moment, not just Macau welcomes you, but the circuit welcomes all drivers as engines fire, doors are closed, and we will be in business for qualifying for the Greater Bay Area GT Cup. Purely for GT4 cars, and an illustration of just how successful GT4 has become. It was a slow burn for sure, but now is an absolutely huge success story. And the fact that we can fill a grid in this part of the world so easily is testament to that. Green flag, Alan. So cars leave the assembly area, and when we went down with the camera past the huge variety of GT4 cars that we've got, I always talk about the bright colours, the liveries that are presented for this unique one-off weekend here at Macau. And I don't know if you saw, but there was a very pale pink car, the 33 car of Ho Kar Meng. and Hokar Meng's car, I have never seen, David, these cars are wrapped, they have vinyl wraps on them, and just the idea that there is a pattern on the vinyl wrap, the like of which I've never seen before. It is such a unique planning leading up to this weekend.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful looking car. The most vinyl that we see this year is a kind of a matte finish, and it is pre-printed onto the vinyl with a kind of an opaque little pattern in the background. The thought that has gone into these cars and the way they're presented, just brilliant. I mean, absolutely brilliant.
Everything here is a one-off race, but there are cars that come from championships, but that isn't to say that they are going to reflect that livery here, because it's Macau, it's a one-off, it's an event, and this is your showcase race. Whether you're a local driver in the road sports, whether you're a local driver in GT4, whether you are a manufacturer coming to Macau for the FIA GT World Cup, all the liveries here are special. Go down the FR grid, and yeah, okay, the teams have a colour that's reflected.
There's a theme from year to year.
But even so, there's an element of local sponsorship that is brought in. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the effort that goes into the cars here and in the two road sport categories that we've got, mighty impressive.
I love it. It's a spectacle. It's a television spectacle, and with a thought to that, let's present the most standout livery of any, and they do just such a brilliant. We mentioned yesterday in the commentary that Pirelli have done their little bit just for this weekend with the little dragon logo on the wall of the tyres. It's all of these things that add up together that just remind me every year we are in a very special and unique place, and being involved is just feels like a bit of a privilege, doesn't it?
Absolutely right. Yes, and for the drivers too, to be on track is a privilege, because this isn't somewhere that you just rock up and go racing. You know, there's one event a year, most years, and it's an invitation-only concept. So to actually race at Macau is something that relatively few drivers, if you consider the number of licence holders worldwide, it's a tiny proportion that have ever raced here.
It's a bug as well. It's once you do it the first year, it's all a bit of a shock to the senses. And you go home and you reflect and you think about it. You think, I want to do that again. And you go back the next year and you enjoy it again. And if you are watching around the world and you thought maybe you're in the UK and you think it looks like the other side of the world, it looks like another event. It does feel like that until you've gone, and then you realise that actually it's a 12-hour flight, and I could do this, and I could get quite a competitive rate on a hotel, and I could enjoy this experience. And I think once you've done it, you do it year after year. So many people from around the world turn up on not just on Sunday for race day, but also for Saturday as well, because it's racing, qualification races tomorrow, and you see people from all over the world all descend upon Macau for a unique motorsport experience. It's just brilliant. And absolutely brilliant.
And you're right, I mean, it's a 12-hour flight, but Macau itself, take the racing to one side, it's not just casinos, you know, the culture here is fascinating because it's been a Portuguese colony, so you've got this mix of Portuguese culture, Chinese culture. It's fascinating.
Lovely Portuguese restaurants.
Oh, absolutely.
There are Italian restaurants, Chinese restaurants, so much choice. And you can come back year after year and do things that you didn't do last year. You can go, if you are a motor racing person, make a moment in your day to go to the Grand Prix Museum, which is beautifully presented, absolutely bang up to date, virtual reality. I can't say enough just what a wonderful experience this place is.
Yeah, the racing's almost a distraction from the rest of the colony, isn't it?
Sometimes it is, Sometimes it is.
So this is one of the cars that really excelled yesterday, the Toyota Supra of Han Li Chao, who won 2 races at the very start of the championship season. There's been a bit of strife at Lisboa. Ooh, that's one of the saves, isn't it? Terence Say in the Mercedes skims the conveyor belting. That's the save of the weekend, I think, to get away from that without any damage whatsoever.
That was very, very close, wasn't it? Goodness me.
So, Toyota versus Porsche, Han Li Chao versus Alessandro Guiretti. Now, Guiretti is new to Macau, but he's the Carrera Cup France champion. And here's an example of how manufacturers are treating this race nowadays. Are we seeing the start of something big? Because the manufacturers have brought all their factory stars for the GT3 World Cup, the FIA GT World Cup. But here, Porsche have brought Alessandro Guiretti and just plopped him into the GT4 category. They've not done that because he was at a loose end this weekend. And off again has gone Terence Say. So having failed to stack it as Lisboa, he's had another drama round Moorish and Police section of the circuit, and he's in the wall there. Han Li Chao up towards the timing line.
Actually, that was one of the cars that has a very distinctive, unique livery for this weekend, and all the team are wearing the bright pink logo, the big lip logo, which is on the side of the car. So, yeah, gaining attention. It's an attention-seeking car, and a bit of attention gained already.
Now here, you've got Alessandro Guiretti and Han Li Chao running together, and that's Terence Say, who I think found the wet part of the road, and he just sort of understeered out wide, didn't he? Boom.
I think you're right, and the problem we mentioned at the start, okay, it's gone in now, but just at the start of the session, the sunshine was out, so you could be sort of lured into a false sense of security that, okay, it's all dry again now. It's not, far from it.
Yeah, indeed. Guiretti went quicker than did Han, but they came across the line. So Han Li Chao in the Toyota is trying to respond, and Terence Say on his first flying lap has done a lot of damage to that front left corner.
And he's shedding its skin, isn't it, as it goes around the circuit. That's not good news. That's going to put little bits of debris, or you can see it flying off now, little bits of debris everywhere.
It is not in the pink, is it, anymore, that car, so
Far
to speak?
From it.
Yeah. So he's going to head to the pit lane and limps round. The team's being told there's a slow car on track. They can relay that message to the driver. And actually, it's going to affect these two, isn't it? Because both Han and Guiretti are on a push lap, and they are going to come across that slow car in the not-too-distant future. So they're together on the road, but this good lap might well be spoilt by finding Terence Say's car limping back. And another one up the escape road at Lisboa is the Ginetta there of Lau Kim Ho. And how did he get there? This is the answer. Red flag, by the way, being shown. He just goes straight on. And then, and this has been a common problem of the weekend, can't get the car turned, hasn't got the lock. And then if you let the revs drop, very, very hard to restart. You've got to wait for a good half a minute or so. And while you've got a car at 90 degrees up the escape road, it really isn't very safe, because if anybody else goes up the escape road, you've got a big accident. So the race director says, got to stop it, and red flag comes out.
But the good news about this is there is going to be debris on the circuit, and it does give the marshals maybe the opportunity to just sweep up a couple of areas, because that Mercedes was shedding. You can see a bit there at the Macau hairpin, just on the outside there. There are bits of bodywork that do really need to be recovered, and this red flag will give opportunity for that to happen. So red flag with 21 minutes. So they've only done one flying lap so far. So the cars will come around the circuit slowly under the red flag caution, and will arrive back in pit lane. But you're right, David, your intro was absolutely spot on. What a collection of manufacturers for GT4s. They're nimble, they're slightly smaller than the GT3 cars, and they do work their way around the gear circuit very nicely indeed. And to have so many manufacturers represented, it's a really, really good entry, this, for the Greater Bay Area GT Cup for GT4 cars. Onwards and inwards into pit lane they come. So they'll make for a busy pit lane as they thread their way in now. And you can see in the background, that's a unique shot that we get of normal life at Macau going on in the background, and the port just in the background with the buses and the motorcycles and cars going about their daily business. Lo Churk in brings the car to a stop. That's one of the unique cartoon liveried cars. And so too the 58 Mercedes down. That's Tai Chang Ta in the Level Motorsports Mercedes AMG.
And there the Caymans arrive in the pit lane, including the car of Alessandro Guiretti, that was the fastest before we had that red flag. Guiretti's car being run by the Z-Speed team. The Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 RS CS, if you want the full title of the car, the CS for Club Sport.
Which you like lots.
What, the Cayman?
Yeah.
It's a lovely shape,
it is
car.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And been a successful car, as has that, the BMW M4, as has that, the Mercedes AMG GT4. And it's fascinating to compare and contrast things like the Mercedes, because you have both a GT4 and a GT3 version of that car. The BMW the same here this weekend. And you look at a GT4 car and you think, God, they're pretty sexy cars.
Yes,
and then you look at a GT3 car and it's one of these on steroids.
It is next level. Yeah, it is next level. Beautiful looking cars.
Kevin Say, who's another very popular driver in this part of the world, very successful driver, the Hong Kong driver, but became the first driver from Macau to win a race at Alton Park a few years ago. He won a British GT race. And for 5 points, who was his co-driver?
Oh no, go on.
Tom Onslow Cole.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it?
And Kevin was a winner also at Snetterton and at Spa, I think I'm right in saying, this year with Maxi Gertz helping in British GT. But in GT3, not GT4.
You're talking about GT drivers and Alton Park. I just remember a couple of years ago when Raffaele Marciello said that when he was competing in British GT, what a joy it was to go to circuits like Alton Park, old school circuits. You couldn't get much more old school than the gear circuit at Macau,
absolutely.
could you?
Absolutely, yeah. No, Jules Gounon was the same. I remember interviewing Jules, but he'd done his first session, I think, at Alton Park. And it was just the best advert for the circuit you could imagine, because he without being prompted, he said, I think I'd asked him about, welcome to British GT or something, and off he went about the circuit. He just came pouring out of him. And the same is true of this. Drivers come here, the lure of it, if they've never been before, they all want to come. And after their first few laps, first experience of the circuit, it all flows out of them, the enthusiasm for the venue.
Well, so many new circuits are appearing now, but they are exactly what they say. They are new circuits, so they are built, they are designed with this in mind, with that in mind. These are old circuits. These are circuits that have not changed for many, many years, and were built probably with the most notable thing in mind, to offer fast straights, overtaking positions. Nowadays, when you're building a circuit, you're thinking about runoff areas, you're thinking about track limits, you're thinking about all of those kind of things. And a circuit like the Gear circuit, it was designed, it has evolved with an idea of presenting every challenge over one lap to the driver.
The start line has had to move over the years, and things like debris fencing has had to be put in, and various safety aspects. But the actual circuit, you can't really change because you can't move buildings.
No, it's
what it is.
It's racing on the streets of Macau, and long may it continue. Absolutely superb. Just looking at Wong Cheng To in the McLaren 570S, and that's the 21 car of Hanley Chow. Top time yesterday, and last year qualified in 13th, finished in, I beg your pardon, qualified 3rd and finished in 14th place for Hanley Chow.
Yeah, last year's GT4 race sadly was cut short, wasn't it? Because we had a drama at the Malco hairpin, and that was the end of that. So it was a Lotus Emira 1-2 last year, but no Lotuses here this season.
That's the one. That's the one where you've got the pre-printed design on the wrap, very pale sort of pink colour, which goes from silver at the front to pink at the back, and jolly smart it looks as well. Really, really nice, that.
Hokar Meng's Ginetta, yeah. So the session is going to resume on short call, and it will be in about 5 seconds time. In fact, now we're being told from race control. So there at the end of the pit lane, as the green flag is now shown, is Hanley Chow, who is the first one to blast away, and everybody trying to get out on track as swiftly as. Now, with it being qualifying, the clock stopped, it restarts now, but you don't want to be in traffic if you can avoid it. And there comes Chen Chenghua's Mercedes AMG, just makes that Ginetta behind back up a little bit.
you'd have thought that we'd have seen just about every presentation of the Ginettas over the years, because they've been racing for some years with great success as well. And then they turn up here to Macau, and you think, well, I've never seen that before, and I've never seen that presentation of a Ginetta before. It's just a great, thoughtful grid this year. Very, very good. And great that we've got a KTM as well.
Yes, indeed. And it's fascinating, isn't it, the way that people have chosen their brand. You know, you kind of think about Ginetta being a very British thing, made in Yorkshire, but actually they've sold a lot of cars to this part of the world.
Huge amount over this part.
Yeah, you know, in Scandinavia as well. And yet it perhaps isn't the most obvious brand to have in the Far East, but clearly, because it was designed to do the job, it's a competitive car. Brian Lai, whose car expired yesterday, is back out on track today, which is good to see. And the session back underway. Road getting drier all the time, getting faster all the time. And I think after their rather spirited battle earlier on, now Han Li Chao and Alessandro Gueretti have split themselves apart, so they're not going to trip over each other.
So 20 minutes just over of the session remains, and this is qualifying for the Greater Bay Area GT Cup GT4. The sunshine is trying ever so hard to peek through the cloud cover that we've had here now. This is the third day of quite cloudy weather that we've had at Macau this year. It's quite unusual. It's an area that does suffer from a windy season, if you like, but it doesn't normally coincide with the Macau Grand Prix. This year we've had a little bit of a challenge with the weather and wet conditions, but you can see now how it's drying out, and that is down to the fact that we are beginning to see the sun burning through the clouds, and it's going to hopefully do a good job of drying out the track, because this afternoon we've got qualifying not only for GT4s out now, road sports, the second category of road sports coming up, qualifying for the Macau gear race, so touring cars on circuit, GT3 GT cars, and for the FIA FR World Cup as well. So if we've got a dry circuit this afternoon, it's going to be the first time for all of them that they get to enjoy the gear circuit and really open the cars up.
And the first time that motorbikes will take to the circuit, because they can't run in the wet. So finally we'll get those on track. I'm trying to work out whether that Cayman has got a problem or it's just lagging back. It's lagging back a lot to let the traffic go. And that's why you've got this sort of traffic jam now, as everybody slows, letting the car ahead go so you don't catch traffic on your first flying lap. So you trickle around the hairpin and then pull the pin. But actually 66 there of Yan Zhao Wei is looking rather slow. Oh no, picked up pace now.
Pin pulled.
Yeah.
So 66 now gets underway, and the cork is out the bottle really for everybody else. I suppose the only way that you could deal with that is to stay back in pit lane, not go out when everybody else goes out. However, with the way things work at Macau and the fact that so often you get a stoppage, you need to be in it to be putting a time in, and you don't know how much opportunity you're going to get on track. I'm still wondering whether there was a problem for that Porsche, which has now maybe rectified itself, because it seems to be on pace now as they head on, flashing the lights. 77, that does have a problem. So that's Lau Kim Ho's car, and it's not going anywhere, is it? It's unfortunately stationary. Trying to see if there's damage to the car as well, but the 77 car, this is what happened. A little bit of a clip there, and just on the back of the 55 car of Kenny Chung, and the net result of that is that Lau Kim Ho's car is beached down on the outside of Lisboa. And more problems as well. So this is a rather costly lap, isn't it?
That's a lot of damage, and another red flag. Car in the wall, debris on the road, and we get a replay of the car bouncing from one side to the other and then going off into the barrier and stopping. Trying to work out who it is, actually.
Two cars already there on the right-hand side, and they're going nowhere, which now becomes one car on the right-hand side. Quite a bit of debris. We've also got the Ginetta the G55 of Lau Kim Ho.
Is that Giretti's Porsche?
I don't know.
Just looking at the livery, it might be the car that's got provisional pole position.
I know.
So, another red flag.
Can't be sure yet.
We'll see. Try and trace who's headed into the pit lane or not. It is looking a bit Giretti like that.
It really does, yeah. And with the car now without a driver out of the car, walking over to the other side. There's a wheel in the road. There's all sorts of debris that the cars are threading their way through.
It's a lot of damage, isn't it?
There's a lot of damage, and I think that identification of the car is probably right. Yeah.
Because it didn't get to the end of Sector 3. Everybody else coming to the pit lane now, obviously. Session suspended. But I'd like another look at that replay, trying to work out exactly how it all started. Because Giretti, if we're right in saying it's Giretti, he's not somebody that's, OK, he's new to Macau, but he's not somebody that often throws cars at scenery, you know?
We shall see. We've only got fairly limited picture of the car that's stricken. We shall know a little more when all the cars appear back in pit lane for this red flag. This is going to take a little while, isn't it, to clear up? Bit of debris there. Car to be recovered as well. But as yet, we've not seen exactly what happened.
Well, the pit lane's getting busy. More and more of them arrive back. One or two being taken to the scrutineering area as they come in for the random checks to make sure that the ride height and the weight is okay. But eventually the recovery vehicle will be allowed out on track, and the marshals will go and attend to all the debris as well.
Yep, plenty of work to be done. Marshals, we can mention them now. It's always fascinating walking into the circuit early in the morning, even if you're walking in at 7 o'clock in the morning for the first motorcycle session of the day. The marshals already on post, already in place. They've probably been there for an hour. Some of them may well have stayed near to trackside overnight as well. There are very often sleeping bags that are dotted around the circuit, and they are committed to the cause over the 4 days of the Macau Grand Prix, and they are incredibly well trained as well. They do a super job, the marshals.
Yeah, they do, and so also fairness to the crane operators, because they're so good at getting cars out of the way. But of course, part of the issue these days is whether the marshals are allowed to go trackside and quickly affix the rope to do that without the race being suspended. Then number 55, Ginetta, which is Kenny Chung's K2C Motorsports car, and more and more of them heading down the pit lane, but not including Alessandro Giretti's Porsche.
No.
Then number 37 is Deng Yi, one of a number of drivers who's been fined over the course of the weekend for not presenting documents on time to the race administrators. So 87, which is the sole Aston Martin in the entry of Yang Meng Chao, the driver from Chinese Taipei. And a quick flick of the wipers there on the Rover Oils BMW of Lang Jiatong, the Harmony racing car. So the pit lane, as I say, starts to fill up, and we await the recovery operation to be concluded.
Have to thread them all in, don't we?
Yeah.
It's a lot of cars to get into place. It's a long pit lane here at Macau. Some of them are just indicated on pit lane entry to pull off and have a couple of random technical checks. It would be fairly basic technical checks that take place on pit lane entry. Quick wait, and the car will be on its way. Most of them make their way down pit lane. That was the car that was stopped over at, just coming into pit lane, over at Lisboa, the 77 car of Lau Kim Ho, the Ginetta G55. Qualified 13th last year, finished 8th in the race, did Lau Kim Ho. 16 down in pit lane, the team attending Lo Churk Yin's Ginetta G55. There's lots of Ginettas, aren't there?
Yeah.
Plenty of them.
And another spectacular colour scheme. There is the number 1 Ao Wang Mercedes AMG, the Macau driver. 77 Ginetta is Lau Kim Ho. 88, which is the Porsche of Leona Chin, the Z-Speed entry. The same team that operates Alessandro Gueretti's car, and I fear the same team that's going to be rather busy repairing it.
I'm pretty sure I saw a wheel on the left-hand side of the circuit.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of work.
So, red flag, and the fact that he's not made it back to the pits does rather confirm Alessandro Gueretti's incident. There's the KTM with its spectacular bodywork, up and push forward, revealing the driver, who is Chang Chi-shun. And the KTM 13th at the moment. You'd think KTM really is a motorbike operator, but they've been around in GT4 and GT4 lights for quite a long time. GT2 as well now, they have a car for.
We're going to have to check that car over, the 77 Ginetta, and I think the team already were just having a look at it. 58 in pit lane with the team in attendance. That's Tai Chang Ta's car, the Level Motorsports Mercedes AMG, and the team are struggling with that 77 Ginetta, aren't they? As a result of that problem down at Lisboa.
There's a rather sorry sight of Alessandro Gueretti's broken Cayman being put on the back of the flatbed, and that's taken a massive whack on the left and the right at the front.
Yeah, from one side of the circuit to the other, I fear.
Sort of pinballed its way across by the look of it, didn't it?
Yeah.
And Gueretti, just to kind of rub salt into the wounds, had done an absolute best and a personal best on that lap. So he was clearly pushing. Clearly pushing.
Yeah, very unfortunate that. And there will be lots of work needed to be done for Gueretti's car.
Yeah, and now he's got to hope that that early 2 minutes 45 lap isn't going to drop him too far. Others will go quicker, but 17 minutes on the clock. Let's take out 2.5 for an out lap. You know, they're going to get 6 laps in, assuming there are no more interruptions. But is that good enough to keep him near the front of the grid? We'll find out. 85. Good to go is Fok Wei Ming with his Mercedes AMG. And another man looking forward to getting back out on track. Go, 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 he says. It is very rare that a camera points into a car and you don't find a happy driver to respond. They're all absolutely loving it.
It is always such a good reaction you get, particularly down in an assembly, in pit lane, or on the grid, because they're made up to be here.
Yeah.
It is not an easy entry to get on the circuit here at Macau in whichever form of motorsport, be it GTs or touring cars, and you're here, you're doing it, and you're on the starting grid. So it is always a joyous driver. We're going to get the first one that doesn't wave at us.
As Kevin say.
Yeah, as I say, a joyous driver. He's very focused, isn't he?
Yeah. Thinking, come on, I want to get back on track. Wipers on 1 or 2 cars. There are some umbrellas up, but I was thinking that was more really because of the sunshine coming out.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. We see umbrellas every year more as parasols than anything else, because the sunshine here can be extremely intense, and at the moment we don't have a roof on the structure in front of us because of the wind that we've had for the last couple of days. The tarpaulin is standing by, but it's strapped down and not ready to be put on the grandstand yet. I'm sure they're going to be busy tonight because the weather forecast much better, much less windy and less wet over the next couple of days. So that's why I think the guests in the grandstands are with umbrellas up, just because the sunshine is now peeking through the clouds. It's doing a good job of burning the clouds away. But when we look down on the tarmac, look down on the start-finish line, just on the other side of the pit wall, it's still very wet down there.
It is, but that part of the circuit is not the racing line, so it's not getting anybody on it to really help dry. Leona Chin's Porsche is good to go. And Cayman, of course, a car that has its 01 Make Series promoted by Porsche in selected areas. And number 2, which is Brian Lye's Parkview Motorsport Ginetta, is also ready to go. Another really creative paint job on that car.
Oh, that looks stunning when you're up close to it. Absolutely stunning.
All smiles. Brian Lye good to go, the Hong Kong driver. There's the slightly unusual sight these days in GT4 of the Audi R8. It's not the most common of cars anymore, but Miguel Lay from Macau is aboard it. And there's one view of a rather broken Porsche, and look to mercy. Yes, whether we see that car again is a moot point.
I'm not sure we will.
That's had a lot of damage, hasn't it? Welcome to Macau, Alessandro Giretti. So, absolute best first sector, personal best second sector, written off car third sector. A lot of damage. However, with the car on its way, that means we're not far off getting the session back underway, and the race director will probably release the cars at a point that they're not going to catch that recovery vehicle rather than wait until it returns. So we don't yet have a restart time, I have to say.
A bit of debris to be recovered, and I would imagine just a check of the old circuit furniture as well. It's had quite a bash, hasn't it?
Yeah,
car?
true. Right, session will resume in 3 minutes. Bit of sweeping up to be done. A lot of paints being gouged off the barriers. So, yeah, almost
Goodness
done.
me.
That was a big, big hit.
That was a very big hit, wasn't it?
Yes, he's run wide there and then bounced across the road. But it was, yeah, you could see the left front had taken all the brunt of it. And those barriers are up against walls anyway, so there's no give in them. So it was,
wow.
Yeah, a very solid hit.
It really was. And, yeah, so 17 minutes of the session, just over, to get back underway once we get the cars out from pit lane. This, the third session of the day, qualifying for the Greater Bay Area GT Cup. GT4 cars will move on at the end of this qualifying session to the Macau Road Sports for the Establishment Cup, the SAR Establishment Cup. And there was going to be a gap of around about 40 minutes between the end of this session and the start of the Macau Road Sports SAR Establishment Cup.
Not anymore.
I think that's going to dwindle. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of broken cars I can see out of our window in the paddock, including the Terence Say Mercedes that is on a flatbed heading to the paddock, which is the underground car park. Ahead of it is a rather broken Toyota from the Road Sport session that we had earlier on in the day, and they're going to be joined by a very crumpled Porsche, a crumpled Cayman before long as well. The session is just over a minute away.
Macau bites, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it bites pretty strong, unfortunately, and there will be damaged cars at the end of sessions. Very disappointing indeed, but the teams do remarkable jobs. You know, we've seen cars that have been really badly, GT cars as well, that are really badly damaged, and missions happen overnight to get spare parts from various areas around that are local and maybe not so local, and then lo and behold, the following day we see a car on the start line ready to get a race underway. It's remarkable what the teams can do here at Macau, and there's a lot at stake when sponsors have put their faith and their investment into a weekend of racing. The teams do absolutely all they can to get cars back on track. Just looking at that recovery for the number 17 car, just over from our commentary box, comes back on the back of a recovery vehicle, is being lowered down. The cars in pit lane being held by the teams, waiting for the green flag, which comes now. So we get the GT4 cars back on circuit. The third time of asking for the Greater Bay Area GT Cup. The GT4 cars all indicated to go out on circuit. The session back underway, 16.5 minutes of qualifying.
and one or two cars getting a bit caught up as they all went storming out of the pit lane, because the drivers know effectively they've got, you know, half a qualifying session now in which to do a time, and not everybody has been able to achieve a proper flying lap thus far. The drivers and the teams being told about a slippery track surface because of liquid put down that's had to be soaked up, but they need to be mindful that where Giretti crashed, the circuit might just be a little bit slippy at the start of this session. Much dry down at Lisboa, still damp offline, but an awful lot better than it has been all weekend as Brian Lai turns through, and the sun still threatening to break through properly and dry the road completely. Clock ticking on down then, 16 minutes remain. Drivers now not only hustling on to try to get a good time for the grid, but also get themselves some clear track space, which in turn is going to help them get that good lap time. I don't think I ever saw Giretti's car return to the pit lane, actually. You'll keep looking out of the window, looking to see yet more damage to a car, but I think it's back just yet, but it can't be far away. As the leaders, the first out of the pit lane, thread their way towards the part of the circuit that caught out the French driver. And now it's going to be the Toyota Supra of Han Li Chao to try to make up just over a second to take pole position away from Giretti, who can do nothing to respond.
Han Li Chao quickest yesterday in free practice. Now it gets competitive with the qualifying session underway, and 15 minutes to have a look at that benchmark time of 2:45.571 for Giretti. So we are now into the second half of qualifying. Doesn't feel like it, does it? Because we've had 2 red flags, so they've only just been able to put in a couple of flying laps in each of the parts of qualifying that we've had so far. Up towards the Macau hairpin. Dry around there on the line, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there is really only one line that you need, because you can't overtake anyway. Han Li Chao then now starts to accelerate through Black Sands down towards Fisherman's, and that Toyota that was so fast yesterday, really energetically driven, the same again. It's a good shape, that car. BMW behind it, the M4, and of course the Supra base really on a BMW platform. It is 37 of Deng Yi. So these are the cars second and third in the times. Han Li Chao down to our bend, and there Deng Yi gives up the fight. Interesting that he backed off there rather than earlier on in the lap, because really you need to be on the pad coming out of that corner to go for a time now, but he will have lost momentum, and therefore I don't think the next lap for Deng Yi is going to be all that impressive. Han Li Chao in the meantime is on a mission.
Yeah, very much so. So with a personal best in Sector 4, gearing up for the start of this flying lap, an overall best in the 5th sector for Han Li Chao, car number 21, looking at it just going out of view there, and with 13.5 minutes left to run. Let's see what this lap is going to be for Han Li Chao in the Toyota Gazoo Racing China Toyota through Lisboa up towards San Francisco Hill, turns into the right-hander, and now threads up towards the closing narrower part of the gear circuit here at Macau. 13 minutes of this session. Let's hope we can get a good couple of laps in here, because we see the circuit better than it has been day long, with huge areas of dry line, twisting and rising through this section of the circuit.
Deng Yi has made a liar out of him, because actually he's done 2 absolute bests, even though he looked as though he backed off coming through our bend. His first sector, better than anybody else's in the session. Sector 2 as well. So there, BMW number 37 of Deng Yi on a real charge. And in contrast to all of this, the Alessandro Giretti Porsche has now arrived in the paddock out of our window. I can see what's left of it, and it might be heading for a skid.
It's not good, that, is it?
No, it's very broken. Deng Yi comes now at the end of Far Away, up the hill towards Donna Maria. Han Li Chao further up the road has done an absolute best 3rd sector. And down to the Macau hairpin now come Toyota and BMW, with only 12 more minutes of the session to go.
2 purples for Deng Yi at the start of this session, and 2 purple sectors now for Han Li Chao. no, because Den Yi takes the purple in Sector 4 once that's complete. So Den Yi, car 37, looking at it now, coming up towards the conclusion of the lap. 3 out of 4 purple sectors for the 37 car. Looking at the BMW now, the wipers are on, not sure they're needed. So close to the wall, turns into the final turn. Up towards the line goes Den Yi. This is going to go top, is it? Overall best, yes, 2:38.6. So a 2:30, and then Den Yi, yeah, with a best 2:37.653.
Han Li Chao went top, and then the BMW next on the road went even quicker, and Alessandro Giretti's time is now being eclipsed because the road is drier, the cars are getting lighter on fuel, the road is getting faster. So Deng Yi 2:37.6, Han Li Chao 2:38.5, Liang Jiatong in the BMW 2:41.969 goes third, and Giretti, for what it's worth, because the car may not be fixable anyway, he's down to 4th already.
And it will drop and drop because the circuit has not been this good all day. Look at the areas of dry surface that we have around the circuit. Let's hope we can get this final 10.5 minutes of this session without a stoppage, because they can get in a groove now and they've got a nice drying track to deal with. Need to still exert a bit of caution. If you go offline, you're going to get caught out, particularly in this part of the circuit. We've already seen it for Giretti. You can, unfortunately, be bitten rather hard here on the gear circuit at Macau. Keep it neat, keep it tidy. Let's see what we can do. Deng Yi has gone purple, Sector 1 and Sector 2 already with the best lap, a 2:37.6, but is pushing on and pushing on in the BMW.
Mighty, isn't it, this? The BMW M4 GT4 ideally suited to Macau, and right now, of course, as the wipers flick again, he's got something to aim for, which is another quick car of Han Li Chao, that Toyota just up the road. This may well turn out to be the lead battle in the race, never mind for pole position, and they're running together on the circuit as well. And every time Han Li Chao sets an absolute best, it's then just eclipsed seemingly by Deng Yi, except on this lap for Sector 3, where Han Li Chao is just ever so slightly the quicker by 166 thousandths of a second.
They get a whole day to think about it as well, because they don't race here tomorrow on Saturday. They race on Sunday. They have a day off tomorrow. So this is the last time they'll be on the gear circuit until they line up for the start of the race.
It's good news for Giretti, possibly, because it gives them an extra day of repair time on the Porsche.
Another day of repair time, and opportunity to get parts in and get them shipped into the area for the team to work on. So maybe we will see the car again.
So Deng Yi, who has been one of the leading lights in the China Endurance Championship this year, fastest, and Han Li Chao goes quickest, but not for long. He did a 2:36.224. Deng Yi straight behind him, retakes pole position, a 2:35.292, 9/10 of a second the margin. But almost every sector, almost every lap now is an improvement. Liang Jiatong goes through, and BMW number 99 is third fastest, 2:39.477. But he's a long way off the top times, like 4 seconds off the top, even though he's third.
Yeah.
And Kevin Say, just to make the point quickly, is now 4th.
And Liang Xiaotung is really pushing on as well, because you see the car skipping around, and you say it's a little off the pace to what you would expect, bearing in mind it's third, but it's 4 seconds away from Han Li Chao and Deng Yi, but they really are pushing on in that BMW, very much so in the 99 car, the car of Liang Xiaotung. 7.5 minutes just over of this session remain. Best lap is a 2:35.2 for Deng Yi, and is still pushing on this lap. Purple in the first sector, personal best in the second sector, and the two of them, the top two, going around together as they head up through the very tight and twisty section. But the good news is that we are now in a bit of a roll. We're putting a quick lap in and another quick lap as well.
Giretti has dropped down to 8th, not taking any further part in the session. The top two in the times running together on the road, and the Toyota Supra doing it again. Absolute best sectors 2 and 3. Deng Yi, absolute best sector 1. And as I say, the tyres are getting warmer, the road is getting drier, the cars are getting lighter. Add it all together, everything's getting faster. Down to Macau hairpin, just under 7 more minutes of the session to go. This is the car that's third quickest then, another of the BMWs, the Harmony Racing entry of Liang Jiatong. And fourth fastest now is number 14, which is the BMW again, different team, 778 Autosport car of Lo Ka Chun. Great noise from the Aston Martin as it growls its way out of Lisboa.
Lovely,
Yang Meng Chow, yeah. And where's he got that car to in the times? 87, 10th fastest.
Keen to see what the conclusion of this lap is going to be for Han Li Chow. 3 out of 4 overall bests in this, and yeah, and the final sector for both Deng Yi and Han Li Chow. Yeah, it's the final sector that's cost them on that lap, so no improvement from either of the top two. Maybe not such a good idea to be going round together, because there were 3 purple sectors for Han Li Chow up until sector 5, the final sector. Oh, what a noise.
Absolutely. GT racing is pretty special, whether it's GT4, GT3, GT2, just because the cars are all different shapes and sizes, different configurations, whether you go big engine, normally aspirated, smaller engine, turbo, but they all have a very distinctive sound as well, which is always part of the appeal of a GT grid, particularly when they're all unleashed at the start of a race or the start of a session. That said, even on its own, the Aston Martin does sound fantastic, doesn't it?
Looks great as well, doesn't
it?
It's an Aston Martin with a Macau twist as far as the livery is concerned. A nod to the Aston Martin green and yellow, but on the side, it's very Macau. It's a great livery, that.
BMWs, oh no, another Porsche in the wall, and that's got a lot of damage. That's pretty much where Giretti had his dramas by the look of it, and it's the same left front corner, another red flag. Just under 5 minutes to go. May not have been Porsche, that may have been Mercedes. Having had another quick look at the back of the car, but whose it was, I can't yet tell you. But another red flag and
a big hit.
Yeah, the session will not be resumed. That's it. 3 strikes and you're out. So another big hit, and the session is not going to be resumed. So Deng Yi takes provisional pole position. Thought you said we were on a roll. We were in a rhythm.
We got 3 laps, 4 laps.
Fair enough. 4
laps without interruption. That's as good as they had during that session. But unfortunately, it's bitten again.
Yeah, absolutely right. So the cars will head back to the pit lane, and we'll try and work out who it was that was in the barriers. It's going to be an awful... It's a flipping good job they're not racing tomorrow, Alan. There's an awful lot of damage to sort out for the teams.
A bit of work, isn't it, tomorrow?
And the rest, absolutely. Yeah, day off, you said.
Well, for the driver, maybe.
Yeah. Well, if the driver's got anything about him, I think he'll go and help the team, both in the context of those 2 big accidents we've just seen. It was a Mercedes, and a skim of the tyres, and then how does it end up in the wall?
No, it's already done it.
Yeah, it was the conveyor belting that's done the damage.
Yeah.
So actually relatively low speed, and it ends up near the wall because I think it just ends up there. 85, that was Fok Wai Ming for Team TRC, and that is that. I can't offer you an illustration of this because there isn't a camera nearby, but out of our window I can see Alessandro Giretti's Porsche, which is a very broken car. The front left has virtually disappeared. Wheel, suspension, all the front bodywork pretty mangled as well. The rear of the car doesn't look too bad. The door is hanging off, but it looks like it's just come from Wimbledon Stadium or something like that. It's a very broken Cayman. But the order at the end of the session is Deng Yi the fastest by 9/10 of a second from Han Li Chow, and Lo Ka Chun up to 3rd in the end in his yellow BMW. 4th fastest was Kevin Tse ahead of Liang Jiatong and then Leung Keng He. Yang Zhao Wei was 7th. Then we had Kelvin Leung 8th and Alessandro Giretti in the end 9th, just ahead of Ho Ka Meng. And then the remainder of the order headed by Yang Meng Chow from Kan Che Wei. Chen Chun Hua was 13th from Brian Lai, 14th. Miguel Lai 15th, and then Lau Kim Ho from Wong Cheng To, Chuang Chi Shun, And a couple of cars, those of Terence Say, and also, we didn't really touch on this, but Lo Chuk In's Ginetta not able to get a lap time in as well. So, yeah, a lot for the GT4 teams to do before they race on Sunday. And if ever there was a good news story, it's that they have a day off for repair time. Right, we'll have a look at some of the highlights of that rather broken session for the Greater Bay Area GT Cup from the gear circuit here at Macau.